Hello, welcome to this general meeting for the Jefferson County League of Women Voters. I am Christina Manthi, the president of the Jefferson County League. We have the pleasure of meeting with the county manager, Joe Kirby, and several of his staff members today. The League of Women Voters was formed in 1920. There are approximately 700 leagues nationwide and 19 in Colorado. The League has certain core principles. Two are at play here today. The League of Women Voters believes efficient and economical government requires competent personnel, the clear assignment of responsibility, adequate financing, and coordination among the different agencies and levels of government. Our second principle at play this evening is that the League of Women Voters believes that democratic government depends upon informed and active participation in government by its citizens. The League never supports a candidate or a party. However, we do lobby on a broad variety of issues. Our efforts are based on positions formed after we have studied an issue. Positions are developed at the local, Jeffco, state, Colorado, and national levels. Our meeting tonight is scheduled for 90 minutes. I want to thank Jill Armstrong and the Housing Interest Group for making this meeting happen. In the process of setting up this meeting, the Housing Group solicited questions from our other interest groups. These questions have helped determine the format for tonight's meeting. Jefferson County has been undergoing a major evaluation of the county through a process called Together Jeffco. In this process, the county has been evaluating its comprehensive plan, the transportation plan, the community wildfire protection plan, the unified land use plan, and the comprehensive community emergency plan. Avel Montoya, as the Director of Development and Transportation, will spend 30 minutes discussing this Together Jeffco. Kat Douglas is also with us this evening. Kat is the Director of Community and Workforce Development. She will be spending 30 minutes discussing the housing situation in Jefferson County with us. Joe Kirby, the County Manager, will have the remaining 30 minutes or so to answer other questions. We also have Mary Berg, the Human Resources Director here.
Kevin Troutman from Sustainability. Carrie Wenwick, Regional Homeless Coordinator.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here to speak with you today about Together Jeffco. I do have some slides put together that I would like to share with you. So hopefully everybody can see this presentation. So again, my name is Avel Montoya. I'm the Director of Development and Transportation for Jefferson County. And so the department contains 4 different divisions. And so that includes our planning and zoning team that deal with things like rezoning property or site plan review, or the cases that go to public hearing before the Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners, or Board of Adjustment. We also have the Building Safety Division in our department, and those are the folks that help us with inspections and building permits. And then also our Road and Bridge team, which help us maintain our roads and also do our snow removal services. And then lastly, our transportation and engineering folks, which help us with the civil engineering design review and civil inspections for some of our drainage and road projects as well. So today I'm going to be talking about a project called Together Jeffco that kind of pulls all those different disciplines together, as well as others, into updates to our long-range planning and then also to our regulations. So Together Jeffco, as was mentioned, has several different elements, which include our comprehensive plan. That's an important document that helps guide future development in the county. It contains several policies that impact how we grow as a community. And what's important here is the voices that we're hearing now are the voices that shape what our future look like. So I'll talk a little bit more about some future opportunities for not only the League of Women Voters to participate, but also the general public, so that we can understand your perspectives that can shape our future. We're also looking at our transportation and mobility plan. And so those are things from our bike lanes to cars to trains to mass transit like buses. So we're excited to look at this, as well as some of our sidewalk gap analysis. to understand where people are walking and commuting and alternative means to make sure we're connecting everybody the best we can. And then also we're bringing in emergency management through the Community Wildfire Protection Planning, or CWPP. And what we're doing here is we're looking at all of the different wildfire protection plans that fire districts have already created within Jefferson County. And we're trying to build upon those to have a cohesive countywide plan. What's important to note here is this plan does impact all of our cities and the unincorporated portions. That's different than our comprehensive plan and transportation and mobility plan, which covers just the unincorporated portion, but it does require us to coordinate extensively with our city partners and adjacent counties. As part of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, we're also looking at an evacuation annex. And so this is part of the county's all hazards plan, which is administered by our sheriff's office and emergency management. And what we're hoping to do here is to make sure we're visiting with the communities most impacted by the different kind of evacuations that may need to occur from different disasters. So this includes things like fire or flooding or other kinds of mass evacuation events that we need to plan for. Now, this is not a plan that will have one specific route for evacuations. Instead, this is understanding all the different ways that people can leave an area and to make sure the public understands that we have to be flexible in case of emergencies. So this plan will help our first responders understand how to best communicate with one another, but then also have some information that is pulled into other planning activities like our transportation plan and future land use plan. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, is we want to make sure that our policies we're creating actually have teeth. So we're also updating our land use code in different modules to make sure that we're capturing what we need to make sure our policies are enforceable, but then also cleaning up the way we do business. And when I say that, there's two words that come to mind. One is being more efficient and more effective on how we process cases, but also communicate with the public. There's 4 different modules that are part of the code enhancement, and we're just starting to wrap up the first module, and then we're starting the second module. And I'll get into a little bit more detail here in just a moment. So in regard to timelines, we started this project in March of 2023 after approximately 1 year of planning, meaning we had several offices and departments internal to the county that worked together to put up a request for proposal out that was inclusive of all these different plans. And so we wanted to make sure that we were thoughtful about how we were going to conduct this planning and regulation update. So we spent a whole year doing that before we signed a contract in March. We did hire Logan Simpson, and then Logan Simpson has several subcontractors helping with all of these different plans. Some of the outreach and planning development has already begun. We started in the spring of 2023 through 2024. We've had several different agencies and cities participate thus far, and we've also had a series of public outreach events as well. Some of the activities that we'll be working on through the summer include the final development of some of these planning elements, and we hope we can adopt a plan in the fall of 2024. And then the remainder of the regulations should be wrapped up by the spring of 2025. So I spoke a little bit about outreach activities. To date, we've had several meetings, at least 2 town halls, several group interviews where we were able to meet with 90 different representatives of some of the business partners and the community that we work with. We had listening sessions and open houses. And so far, we've had almost 32,000 social media impressions. So we're working really hard to make sure everybody in the community is aware of this planning effort and can follow along as we move along with the planning activities. We've also saw about 6,000 visits to our website, which is togetherjeffco.com. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at our website, we would encourage you to do that tonight or tomorrow, togetherjeffco.com. You can follow along all the different plan elements. You can participate in different surveys and activities. And please share that website with your neighbors and friends and colleagues, because we really want to see those numbers increase. So overall, the number of people we've had at meetings is just over 6,000 so far. And then we have some upcoming meetings, as I mentioned, in March, and they're here on your screen. March 4th, 5th, and 7th. We're going to host kind of an open format meeting where you'll be able to come mingle with some of the staff and consultants, meet some of your neighbors, and talk about some of the things that are important to you. Specifically, we're going to be sharing information we've collected up to date. I'll highlight some of those here tonight as well, but then also try to learn more about what kind of development and where that development should be located. So we'll be talking about things like density, type of housing, whether it's affordable or other. We'll be talking about different transportation corridors and what's needed to enhance those areas to make sure they're safe. And then also have that lens on the evacuation component and wildfire. So please join us at one of those events. All the materials that will be at these meetings will also be posted online at togetherjeffco.com. I did want to touch on one important thing that's also a subject of the conversation later on, but I think goes to show how important it is to all of us, which is climate action planning. And so in 2022, the county adopted our climate action plan, and I wanted to take a moment to share a little bit about how we're planning to incorporate that county plan into the work for Together Jeffco. On the left of this screen here, you can see the different sector elements that are in the plan that range from foundational elements to buildings, to energy supply and transportation, ecosystems, food, and waste and water. Many of those things are going to align with our Together Jeffco planning efforts, where we're going to encourage adaptive reuse of buildings, where if we have idle vacant sites, we want to find ways to make it easier to redevelop those properties to uses that are beneficial to the public. So we're going to be looking at our different zone districts, looking at our future zoning designations that somebody could come in and ask to rezone to make sure that it's conducive to what the community wants to see, but then what's also good for our climate. We're also going to be looking at supportive opportunities for alternative energy, whether that's solar panels on homes or wind energy or larger industrial sites that can support the alternative energy needs of the community. And then we're going to look closer at the multimodal opportunities. So making sure we have different modes of transportation that will help reduce our carbon footprint. We'll be looking to address natural hazards and wildfire habitat with our new development. And this is going to be really important when we start to see kind of the overlay between some of our areas we're trying to protect, not only for natural resources, but also because they may be areas of high fire danger. So we'll start to look to see that overlap and where new development may or may not be appropriate, and what kind of policies we can do to shift development from those areas. And then lastly, we're also looking at water reuse and recharge kinds of systems. This could be things like passive drainage systems, where you might have parking lots that have natural areas where the water naturally drains into, that's built into the parking facility to make it a little easier, so we don't have these large areas of detention ponds that you typically see as part of larger development. Also, we're going to be looking at our special district regulations, and specifically for metropolitan districts. We've heard from you all and others that metro districts are really important and how they impact what it costs to live in our community. And so we took a little bit of time here to put together some information about what a special district is. And I know this is something that Joe may cover later on in the presentation as well. So special district, there's several different types. I have them listed here. They range from ambulance authorities to fire protection, to park and recreation, to water and sanitation. And most of the time, what the community sees is the metropolitan district, Metro District for short. And usually it has multiple different services that are part of their plan. A lot of times that includes sanitation and potable water service, also some of the infrastructure that you might see for roads or bridges or sidewalks, or even common landscaping areas. So as you may know, these are all districts that are detailed in state statute, and they're basically governmental entities with taxing authority that are approved by the voters. In some cases, those voters are the developers, and sometimes that makes that controversial. But there are many mechanisms that the state has put in place to help protect property owners when they buy properties. A couple of those are notification requirements, where a seller is required to notify the future buyer that they are in a metro district, and in fact, even disclose how much their property taxes would be if they choose to live in that community. So this image I have at the bottom here was recently sent out by the Jefferson County Treasurer's Office, who, as you know, collects the revenue from different sources for the county and then distributes them to different entities. And so here you can see Jefferson County takes in about 24 cents for every dollar in taxes that are collected. And the other remaining portions are then sent to public schools, who brings in the largest amount at about 50 cents for every dollar. And then special districts, which includes metro districts, takes in about 21 cents per dollar. And then our cities take in about 3 cents, and then urban renewal authorities take in 2 cents as well. Of note, there is a proposed bill that will or soon will be introduced that could allow counties to have urban renewal powers just like cities do. So if you're interested in special taxing districts, please take a look at that. You can go to the state legislature website and search for that information. And I can also share that information with you should you want to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to share more information. And as we kind of wrap up on my portion for today, I just wanted to highlight that, yes, service plans for metro districts are approved by the county or that local government who's reviewing them. And there is a lot of guidance in state statute and our regulations on how that works and the timeframes and the different policies that are applied. So those are all scrutinized to make sure that the mill levy or the amount of money being raised to pay for the infrastructure costs makes sense. In fact, we've had a recent case where our planning commission recommended denial because they felt like the burden to the community or the future homeowners would be too high. That caused the developer, the Metro District entity, to rethink how they were approaching the mill levy and the infrastructure, and they reduced those costs, which ultimately the Board of County Commissioners approved. Now that service plan really guides what that new local government can and cannot do. And so those are very important to us to make sure we scrutinize those and ridicule those to make sure they're appropriate and don't overly burden the future property owner with too many taxes and expenses. And that, of course, is all reviewed by a district court, and then property owners are then voting on whether or not to approve that particular mechanism or not. So that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have about Together Jeffco, the metro districts, or how our Together Jeffco planning effort brings in the Climate Action Plan.
We have one question. Urban renewal districts are designated to remediate blight. Abel mentioned a new bill that could allow counties to create URAs. Does unincorporated Jeffco have any specific blighted areas that could benefit from this?
That is a great question. So about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, the state legislature amended the statute for urban renewal. And initially, that tool was only allowed for cities. And we know that there's unincorporated metropolitan counties that have urban level services and suburban services. And so more recently, cities and counties can partner to go through that process. So blight is a controversial word that is tied to urban renewal. And it is very different than the traditional sense in that blight means, in some cases, that there's lack of infrastructure. So for example, you might have a 35-acre vacant lot in the middle of a neighborhood that does not have streets that connect or any other utilities that connect, or that may have an older building that's left vacant and is in need of repair. Those would all be criteria that would satisfy the blighted definition in the statute. And so it doesn't necessarily mean it's crime ridden or that there's other elements that some folks may think of when they hear the word blighted. It sometimes just means there's some services that may need to connect through the site to make it developable. Now, so far, the initial conversations around this new bill that may allow counties to process urban renewal type tools would not be contingent on the blight factor as far as I understand it. It would be more based on what's a beneficial use of the property. So it's kind of looking at that tool in a more positive light, using more positive terms than are typically associated with the city version of urban renewal. So I hope that answered your question. If you have follow-up questions or want to learn more, please feel free to reach out as well.
Thank you. We have a question that really applies. How can the LWVJeffco make the most impact? Can small interest groups meet with you?
Yes, absolutely. We just had a request from our equestrian community to talk with us and meet with us specifically about some of their needs and thoughts and how that can be incorporated into Together Jeffco. We do encourage that if you have a group that wants to meet with us, please reach out to me. We'll make sure and either include you in meetings that are already happening so that you can have your voice heard and learn more about others' concerns and opportunities as well, or we'll be happy to meet with you individually to make sure that we hear your specific interests as well.
I'm going to save the remaining questions until we hear our other speakers, if you don't mind.
No problem. Thank you.
We want to go ahead and get to them, but we will come back to these questions.
So thank you for that. I'm just going to jump in here, and my name is Mary Berg, and I'm the Human Services Director, and just want to thank you all for having us tonight. And I have been with Jefferson County for 28 years, so I am deeply committed to our community and to the services that we provide. I wanted to provide a little bit of an overview, which is why I'm sharing just a small copy of our organizational chart and how we find kind of some of the housing and homelessness topics and work being done in the county in our Human Services Department. So we're organized with 6 different divisions. We just recently are in the process of standing up what we're calling our new case management agency division. We have become the new case management agency for Jefferson and Clear Creek counties. We're going to administer some of the individuals with disability waivers through Medicaid that DDRC, the Developmental Disabilities Resource Center, was providing. And we are going to be providing them out of our Human Services Department through a competitive RFP that we were awarded from the state of Colorado, Healthcare Policy and Financing. We have a Business and Finance Division, our Children, Youth, Families, Adult Protective Services Division, Community Assistance, where we provide our food assistance and most of our public benefits, Head Start. And then where you see Kat's name here, we have a division that's called Housing, Economic, and Employment Services. And you can see there are a number of programs that are in this division. We are combining all of our employment support services, child care assistance, and some of our supportive services into this division. We are able to engage in affordable housing because of the community development program that resides in this division in the Human Services Department. So we have some federal entitlement dollars that allow us to direct some of those funds to affordable housing projects in our community, as well as a little bit of tiny funds that go out into the community for homelessness services. So I just wanted to kind of provide that umbrella of services, and then I'll throw it back to Kat, who will kind of go more deeply into those questions.
Thank you, Mary. But it is really helpful context to see how we're organized and how we run all of these different programs. So for the ARPA question and related to how we're going to deploy it as a county and commit to using it in a way that is addressing homelessness, as most people are aware, the county did set aside about $6 million to support housing and homelessness efforts. The navigation centers are the priority for the ARPA funds. The county continues to work with the municipalities to support the development of these projects and concepts. Some elements are easier to achieve than others, understandably, but the importance is the commitment to the long-term solutions that navigation centers can provide by connecting a full array of services to housing and including some sheltering components. The county is fully aware of the impending deadlines and actively working to develop additional options for consideration. Multiple staff throughout the county are working to evaluate the possibilities and determine the best pathways. ARPA remains a significant funding option for these critical needs, and everyone is committed to ensuring they are deployed in a meaningful manner within compliance with the guidelines. So I hope that answers that question about the county's commitment to that. And we're happy to take questions at the end if there's additional questions about that piece. The second question was related to someone actually I would like to introduce, related to our regional homeless coordinator position. So I'm pleased to introduce Carrie Rennick, our regional homeless coordinator. Carrie is seen here on the screen. Carrie just started in December and filled the position that had been vacant since February 2023. The vacancy created the opportunity to enhance and change the position requirements to support the evolving community changes. This position is dedicated to supporting the city and county managers and connecting the leadership needs to the solutions and services happening throughout the community. The goal is to align where we can, coordinate in all applicable areas, and make strategy and solution decisions jointly. As we know, this is a large community with both urban, rural, and mountain needs. Leadership strategies and solutions need to be able to accommodate this diverse community. It is not an easy task, as Carrie is learning. In Jeffco, we are lucky because we have a very active and engaged community, a longstanding collaborative effort through Heading Home, and invested leaders that are all committed to moving forward. Carrie will be working both regionally across the metro area, as well as across the jurisdictions within Jeffco boundaries. As we know, homelessness does not necessarily adhere to boundaries, and so it's really critical that we're working together to address solutions that will work. Some key initial priorities include hiring a severe weather planner who can assist the county with implementing recommendations from the extreme weather blueprint produced in 2023. Some of these efforts are already underway, but once this position is filled under Carrie, we will have one person entirely dedicated to supporting the planning needed for extreme weather and severe weather response. As we know in Jeffco, all solutions require many stakeholders, not just government, so having one position dedicated to coordinating with the multiple jurisdictions and multiple coordinators will be key to aligning, streamlining, and enhancing our efforts. A second priority is restructuring Heading Home and creating a governance or advisory structure that incorporates key leaders from the county and municipalities. Incredible work happens on the ground through nonprofit partners, schools, law enforcement partners, healthcare providers, libraries, government entities, our faith partners, and our community volunteers. Adding this leadership component is crucial to community progress to both meet our unhoused resident needs, but also our larger community needs. Carrie is in the beginning stages of development on this, but is eager to support the city and county managers with this effort. Another key objective is revising the plan to end homelessness. The current plan served critical needs when it was written and adopted several years ago. It is now necessary to review and revise with the evolving growing needs. This work will require community participation and input. While a lot of people attend the Heading Home quarterly meetings, the work happens in between those meetings. So Carrie will be seeking a great amount of participation from all of our stakeholders to ensure this plan is realistic, and actively moving the needle on solutions-based strategies. So again, that's a lot. Those are just some key priorities that have been identified thus far. But if there's additional questions, Carrie's always happy to meet with community groups, as well as I am. And so we are happy to answer any questions at the end and share Carrie's contact information so that people can reach out to her with additional meeting requests. The last question is about Proposition 123. So what is the baseline for Jeffco's 3% commitment, and what are our plans for meeting this commitment? So Jefferson County did go through a thorough review of the requirements of Proposition 123 and are excited that we were able to commit along with our surrounding municipal and county neighbors. Jefferson County committed to adding or preserving 502 affordable housing units through 2026. Committing to Proposition 123 did a few things. It opened up the possibility for our development partners to apply for and access state funding made available through Proposition 123 as they develop affordable housing in unincorporated Jefferson County, which we know is a significant need. Proposition 123 also requires that the county develop expedited plans review processes to support affordable housing development projects. This would occur under Avel's teams, and they've already been reviewing what it would take to do this. And so everyone is fully aware of the commitment that this requires and fully prepared to meet that requirement. Additionally, Proposition 123 includes funding for homelessness solutions. Our nonprofit service providers would have been eligible to apply for Proposition 123 funds, even if Jefferson County had not committed to meeting the requirements. However, by committing, Jefferson County government can also apply to support the homeless response efforts we've implemented in collaboration with our community partners and stakeholders. Our community development team is always open to working with development partners to explore opportunities to create and preserve more affordable housing units. It is critical in a diverse community like Jefferson County that we have a diverse array of housing inventory and solutions to meet the needs of all residents. Development entities are always encouraged to reach out to us with potential opportunities. We're able to assess the concept and plan to determine if our funding could be a support. And in some cases, our funding may not be the best fit, but we can play a supportive role of helping entities navigate the development process, both for funding and zoning. So it's an important note, additionally to all of this, with Proposition 123 and the county's commitment, that is only applicable to the unincorporated portion of the county. Each municipality had to file their own commitments. We do have agreement from each of the jurisdictions to coordinate our counts. So we have to do more work this year to develop what that looks like. But this 502 units that we've committed to at this point only applies to unincorporated portions of the county. And again, we're happy to take questions at the end or have separate meetings outside of this forum to address any questions people have. And with that, I will turn it over to Joe. Thank you.
So I have a couple of topics or questions that were posed to me, but first a little bit about me. My name is Joe and my last name is Kirby, and I've been with Jefferson County just for about 9 months now. And I am originally from Colorado and have spent a large portion of my career serving local governments in Colorado, and was able to come to Jeffco and take the reins as the county manager. I'm primarily responsible for the day-to-day oversight of the county. I report directly to the Board of County Commissioners, and I work very closely with all of the other elected officials as well in terms of supporting their areas that they oversee. I do have a number of questions tonight, and I'm going to ask all of my colleagues to help answer these questions. The first question was really around metro districts and or special districts. Avel Montoya touched on this a little bit earlier. I do think that this question is better answered by Avel, and so I think Avel is still present and able to join us for expanding a little bit on the conversation surrounding metro districts. So Avel, would you like to jump in?
Absolutely. I was monitoring the questions in the chat, so I'd like to take this time to read some of those and then answer some of those. The first one says, how are you determining if Metro District taxes are going to be too much for the taxpayers who will live there when the people imposing those taxes will never be living there? It's a great question. And so what the team does, we have a pretty good software system that tracks all the different cases that we approve. So we make sure and know where all of the boundaries are for metro districts that have been approved in the county. And we make sure and evaluate each new plan that's submitted in line with what the county has approved previously. And so what that does is it lets us understand if the public is responding to the market in a positive way. So if we have a high demand for housing in subdivisions that have metro districts, and we know what that mill levy is and the amount of taxes that are being generated, then we know a similar type subdivision with similar type mill levies will be supported by the market. That doesn't mean it's affordable for everybody. And I think that's why, the state put together some laws that require the seller to make sure future home buyers are aware that it's in a metropolitan district and that they're aware of what their previous taxes were and what the estimates of new taxes are with that mill levy, so that the residents can make informed decisions on where they want to live and what kind of taxes they would like to pay. So that's one way. And then there's also some similar kinds of questions in there about, how do we know the costs are actual and not just some inflated value? So when a metro district comes in, we are also evaluating the subdivision. So we know what's required in regard to new roads or new drainage facilities, or what types of common components are going to be required of that development. We also have staff that scrutinize those prices and estimates. And we have real world experience because our road and bridge team and our T&E staff, transportation and engineering, actually design and do some of this road work for other areas of the county that are not in metro districts. So when we see a development come forward, we know what the estimated costs are, and we're able to evaluate that in regard to, is that right or is that off the mark? So that gets scrutinized, as well as looking at their projected income from those taxes based on how long they believe they're going to take to pay off the bonds that support the infrastructure costs. And so that's all goes into the analysis. We also make sure that members of our planning commission are trained and that the public is made aware of these proceedings so that they can also comment or ask questions and scrutinize our work. And in fact, I've learned recently that Jefferson County has one of the highest number of residents that are engineers in the metropolitan area. And I think that does show, because we have a number of folks that take their time to come to our public hearings and scrutinize the developers' work, and then also give feedback to our staff. So we really appreciate that. I think that means these projects and plans are being heavily scrutinized. So I will stop there, as I believe I answered the general spirit of the questions that were posed so far. I do maybe want to go back to one other that was asked at 5:30. I think that was about the same time I wrapped up. And it's talking about, do we have the staff to implement these ideas? Really good question. So the Transportation and Development Department, we have about 300 employees that help support and implement different strategies in transportation and development. But we also have a number of partners throughout the county. We have 3,000 employees. Here are some great examples of our housing partners and how we work together, not only in giving feedback on a lot of our planning efforts, but then also, practically speaking, how do we create rules that allow us, for example, to process affordable housing projects in a timely fashion. So I think all of us working together with the community really helps us balance, what are those dreams versus what are some of those items that we can implement, and then how do we balance those? One thing I do want to point out as well, that is very important since infrastructure and capacity came up. The county does have about $600 million of backlog of road infrastructure and other kind of drainage infrastructure needs. And we know that's through the next 10 years. And so we analyze all of those needs and try to prioritize those. And so we know there's about $70 to $90 million worth of critical infrastructure that the county needs to either replace or fix as those areas are either failing or will fail soon. So we make sure that our teams are not only looking to the future, but they're also spending a lot of time on maintaining the quality of what we have today. So I will stop there. Thank you, Joe.
Val, thanks for expanding on the topic of special districts. I appreciate that. I'm going to turn my attention to the next question that was posed under my section, which is about immigration. Mary Berg, our Human Services Director, is here to help address this particular topic, and certainly Kat, Douglas, join in as you feel appropriate. Mary and Kat work very closely with these type of issues and have more expertise than I do, hence the reason I'm relying on them tonight. So Mary, would you like to touch on the topic of immigration?
Yes, actually, I want to read the question, and then I'm going to have Kat go first, and then I'll follow. And basically, the question, Joe, was the Denver area has had an influx of migrants from the border. How has this affected Jefferson County? And so Kat's going to talk a little bit about some of the services available to the Workforce Center, and then I'll share a little bit more about what we're hearing from our community.
So at this point, thank you, Mary and Joe. At this point, our Business and Workforce Center, we've just seen a handful of people, but I'll share a little bit about what we are poised to do. Our Business and Workforce Center is working on identifying potential ways to support individuals as they gain work authorization. We have partnered with the City and County of Denver to learn about what has worked and what opportunities exist to explore, develop strategies further. We've also worked with the Office of New Americans. We are coordinating with all of the workforce centers across the state, so we work in one unified direction. This is really critical as we know people are kind of branching out, and we want to make sure that we're all working in alignment. Our hope is that as individuals gain authorization to work, that we have employers ready to hire. We know we have a talent gap in many industries. While the economy is improving significantly, we have more jobs and we have people to fill them. Individuals arriving generally express a significant desire to work, which is great. We believe that our workforce centers can help bridge these opportunities from individuals that want to work to the employers that have talent needs. So we are in the beginning stages of developing these plans, but are excited to be able to engage our employer and business network in Jefferson County to match our talent opportunities with those that are coming into Colorado, as well with our talent needs. And then I will turn it back over to Mary.
Thank you, Kat. We receive periodic updates through our Emergency Operations Center or Emergency Management portion of the county related to what is happening in the Denver community with the increase in migrants, and they are tracking that. We also get periodic updates through a Human Services Directors meetings. But most often in Jefferson County, we hear from groups like you and our community partners, nonprofits. And what's being reported to us is from primarily our food task group. We have a very active number of community partners and nonprofits that provide for emergency food needs in our community. And a majority of them are seeing a significant increase in the need. Anywhere from maybe a 20 to 30% increase in the number of daily individuals or families who are seeking emergency food supports. We're unable to determine if all of that increase is due to migrants, because many individuals residing in our community are also eligible for food assistance, and with the rising costs of housing and food, individuals are frequently seeking those additional services through our nonprofits and our food pantry partners. We do also know that the current group of migrants that are coming in do not have, at this time, a refugee status. They are not then eligible for Medicaid or food assistance or other eligibility programs that we operate through Human Services. So we are not seeing a significant number coming into our doors. Most likely they are aware of that from their stop in Denver. But we know that we are neighbors to Denver, so we know that they are here in our community seeking services, supports, and resources. Does anyone on our team want to provide any additional information?
Mary, it might be helpful to talk a little bit about our coordination with Denver surrounding the coordinated entry program that they are trying to create. I know Carrie Rennick is having a meeting this week, and then you and I are also having a meeting next week as well. But can you just touch a little bit on those efforts?
I think we've been asked to explore what that coordinated entry program looks like. You might be familiar with the prior Mayor Adam Paul, who has a position in the Denver city government right now, working on this issue. So we're seeking to gather some more information about that coordinated entry project.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so there was a couple of questions posed to me around climate and climate change. And as part of that, I've asked Kevin Troutman to join me, who works in our sustainability office. But let me answer directly the two questions that were posed to me. The first question that was posed is, the current county budget identifies $500,000 for implementation of the climate action plan. Please give us insight into how this expenditure was determined. So I'm actually very proud of the work that our staff did in this particular area. I would say that this is the first time, at least since we've adopted the climate action plan in 2022, where our Board of Commissioners has been able to financially set aside a large amount of money to advance our climate action plan. Kevin will talk more about our climate action plan and what that looks like and how we arrived at that. But really how this 500,000 came about is through our budget process. And through our annual budget process, we have something called decision packages. And these decision packages are new proposals that departments are wanting to advance forward to the Board of Commissioners to seek new funding to support whatever that decision package is wanting to advance. In this case, our sustainability staff, working with their director, determined that $500,000 would be a good starting point for us to dedicate for the 2024 budget to advance our climate action plan. Now, this 500,000, as Kevin will likely share a little bit more on this, it's not intended for us to spend all $500,000, for example, on one project or two projects. It's really intended to serve as seed money, as local matching dollars to bring in additional state and federal grants. So 500,000 is certainly a noteworthy amount. And what we're trying to do is to not just spend 500,000, but use that 500,000 to attract additional investment through grants and other funding sources so that we can really grow that 500,000 to be a larger investment by using it as seed money for matching dollars for grants. So I think that's important to remember. Also, in talking with our sustainability office, and in this case, our deputy county manager who directly oversees sustainability, it's their intent to continue this $500,000 each and every year. This particular amount, like I said, is new. It's starting this year. We do have some financial and fiscal challenges that we're trying to navigate, but bar that, it is our intent to continue to invest in this particular area. The second question, it's a fairly long question, so let me run through this. It says the climate action plan did not identify the county manager in its structure for plan implementation. As manager over the various county departments, what do you see as your role in supporting the lead coordinator and cross-departmental county climate team in implementing the plan? So that is the first part of the question. And for me, that's really easy. What is my particular role? My particular role is to make sure that our team has the direction and the resources they need. And I think that sums it up the best for me. And an example of that is a really recent example. We worked diligently on the development and adoption of the climate action plan. And so that's kind of the direction piece. And the resource piece is the example that I just provided of the $500,000 that the Board of County Commissioners approved for the 2024 budget. So the Deputy County Manager who reports to me, she oversees our sustainability area. And so the Deputy County Manager and I meet weekly. And so I touch base with her weekly on what's happening in our sustainability arena. In addition to that, at least several times a year, we do go forward to our Board of County Commissioners and we provide them a sustainability update on where we're at towards achieving our climate action plan. And so we report out regularly to the board. And that's another one of my responsibilities, is to make sure our staff are getting in front of the board on a regular basis to make sure that we are updating them on our progress. My last comment will be addressing the last part of the question, and it says, as county manager responsible for overseeing day-to-day operations, how do you ensure the integration of the plan's action into existing operations? And I will tell you that fortunately for me, the majority of key departments that are responsible for advancing our climate action plan report under my umbrella. We do meet every Monday morning, and we don't talk about sustainability every Monday, but the great thing is we are providing the direction through the climate action plan. In this case, we're providing resources through the $500,000, and then we're providing accountability through regular check-ins, both with the Board of County Commissioners as well as myself, overseeing the departments that are really key in advancing our work in the climate action area. So that brings my portion of this to a close, and I'd like to ask Kevin to jump in and to give folks more of a background regarding sustainability within Jefferson County, as well as our climate action plan.
Sure, thanks, Joe, and thanks everyone for having me. I know I wasn't technically invited to this panel, but I'm happy to be here and contribute in whatever way I can. As Joe said, my name is Kevin Troutman. I'm with Jefferson County Sustainability. If it's all right, I have some slides I can share to make my talk a little more visually interesting. Awesome. So I'll run through these slides. I don't know if you're necessarily expecting a presentation, so I'll try to keep it kind of brief. And but this goes into a little bit of the history of Jeffco sustainability, you know, where the program came from, the development of the climate action plan, and a little over a year later, what we've done so far. So sustainability and Jeffco are a two-person team that lives under facilities management. And the first sustainability hire was in 2017, and the focus was as more of an internal facilities management side of sustainability. So we cut our teeth on that work, and we've done a lot of work on energy efficiency, water efficiency on our county facilities, and really tying the knot on you know, saving money, sustainability, win-win, reducing your energy use, reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. And we still do that work today, and a lot of what we do too is measure that impact and see how much energy we've saved, how much money we've saved, how much we saved on our emissions as well. We also work really closely with the Jefferson County Sustainability Commission. And that group is an advisory board of volunteers that advises the BCC on basically sustainability policy. And they work with us to help us do a little more community-facing work and expand our capacity as well. The Climate Action Plan was a project that came out of that group. And it was a community fundraised climate action plan. So we hired a consultant. The plan was developed over the course of a year. During that process, we had a stakeholder group that involved, members of the business community, members of the community, members or representatives from the different municipalities within Jefferson County. And so it's a community-wide climate action plan that's meant to be a really representative look at what needs to happen within Jefferson County to achieve our goals. And our goals were determined to be in alignment with what came out of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 2015 to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. And so what that comes down to is our goal for Jefferson County is a 73% reduction by 2035 in greenhouse gas emissions while centering equity, which is a huge reduction, a really ambitious target. But we wanted to be, at the leading edge, and we wanted to measure ourselves against what needs to happen globally. And the second goal within the plan is more focused on resiliency, or our community's ability to withstand disruption, whether through extreme weather or other events. The plan resulted in 6 major sectors of where action needs to take place, as being ecosystems, food and waste, water, buildings, energy supply, and transportation. And also identified within each of those categories were a number of actionable solutions that need to happen to work towards each of our goals. And so these are some of the priority ones, which I won't cover in detail. But you can see that, working across these sectors is more than our little 2-person team can handle, but it's also us recognizing that a lot of this work is happening within lots of different county departments. So we, being the sustainability team, are the lead implementers of this plan, but a lot of the work we're doing is to, connect the dots of what's already happening to see how we can add capacity to other departments and work collaboratively to really make this effort happen throughout the county across all different levels of implementation. And as Joe was saying, it's really important to note that we recognize it's a collaborative project, and that, like I was saying, and you'll forgive my thoughts not being super organized as I was sort of the last minute invite to this panel, but we know that we need to act in coordination with every other department. We're very excited to be plugged into the Together Jeffco plan update to help codify some of the actions within the Climate Action Plan into existing county plans and just expand, the purview to which this is written into Jeffco's goals as a whole. So now we're a little over a year into the implementation process of our plan, and we've had our hands on a number of different projects. As Joe was saying, we just got the $500,000 budget allocation, which is huge because a big part of what we're trying to do, as he was saying, is go after grants. There's a lot of grant money available now from the IRA and the IIJA. Before that, big federal packages. And pretty much all of those grants require about a 20% match. So again, the idea of that $500,000 is just help us know we have funding secured in advance to leverage that additional funding and bring it into our community. This is a list of a bunch of different projects we've been working on. So I don't know, maybe I won't read them all, but we're trying to tackle high priority things, a lot of transportation sector stuff. And then also low-hanging fruit, and then things that are a little more equity focused. So we're working with our Jeffco Public Health Department to try to build a program to weatherize manufactured homes in the community. Yeah, so I also I'm open for questions too. I don't want to read all of these items on a list, but to move, I have a couple highlighted projects too. One of the first things we wanted to work on was building a more interactive reporting framework for our climate action plan, so we can evaluate our own progress, but not just bury that progress in a PDF report that nobody reads at the end of the year. So we spent some time in partnership with our business innovation program at Jeffco, building an interactive online tool, which is live right now. You can check it out on our Jefferson County Climate Action Plan website. And this is an interactive dashboard where you can click through all the different sectors and see some key metrics we've put together to track our progress as we move closer towards our 2035 goals. We also just successfully launched our first electric vehicle pilot with our fleet department. They were one group I think I haven't mentioned yet that we're working with closely to work on electrifying all of county vehicles eventually. We just got our first 6 electric vehicles, our first fleet chargers, and we're live now, and we're going to compile data and evaluate how that's going, make sure that it's a smooth transition for our county staff, and something we look forward to doing with additional vehicles in the future. And we also just completed an EV action planning process, which was another way we were bringing together various county departments in assistance with Xcel Energy. This is a free program for the county where we were able to get a bunch of people together and brainstorm key actions that different departments can take to facilitate the transition towards electric vehicles. And we're just entering our 18-month implementation process for that plan now. Yeah, so I know we have our own Q&A in this. I know that was a lot of information very quickly. I'm happy to talk about anything this group is more interested in hearing about as well.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
And it's really not directly related, but yet it does. We have several members that have put stone-coated steel roofs on their homes. And then when they went to add solar, the companies are insisting that the stone-coated steel be ripped off and a traditional asphalt be put on. Is there anything they've talked to the manufacturer of the stone-coated steel, and it's possible to put solar panels on this, but yet the local suppliers are refusing to do this. Is there anything the county can do to help in this debate?
That is a great question. And I think the issue really resolves around does the manufacturer or the contractor think that when they install the product, there's going to be a long-term maintenance issues with leaking roofs. So I think that's primarily what the concern is, where asphalt shingle roofs, you can use tar to patch it that, could last 30 years. Whereas some of the other type of roof structures don't hold up as well or aren't tested as well in regard to some of the maintenance. But I do also want to share that our building division is looking at electric updates to our building codes, and that could come as early as the next 12 to 24 months. And it's really in response to sustainability efforts for not only charging stations for electric vehicles, but also emerging technologies for efficiency in the electrical code for solar panels and other types of energy efficiencies for building construction. So we definitely are planning on diving into that a little bit deeper. In fact, earlier today, I had a discussion with our operations manager in building safety about this specific topic. And we have some meetings coming up when we can start talking about timeframes in which we can update those codes.
Are there other questions we haven't answered yet? I do know we have one outstanding for Avel that's addressing not within the special district, but the areas that connect the special district. And I didn't know if Minnie had gotten a satisfactory answer on that.
This is a great question because there's so many layers to it. So when we talk about regional transportation networks, there's so many different partners and tools that are available. and metro districts is just a portion of that. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit more about that if I could. So DRCOG, which is the Denver Regional Council of Governments, is really comprised of 8 to 10 metro area counties. And their purpose is to help funnel regional, state and federal dollars to the local level. And so they collect all of the transportation network information from the local jurisdictions, and they try to put it in one place and make sense of it so that we have a standard kind of awareness of the emerging traffic patterns in the metropolitan area. And as we know, people commute and shop all through every county in the metro area. And so we use those plans to inform our capital improvement planning and our long-range plans, like our transportation plan that we're updating. So we make sure we know what the volumes and types of trips look like, and then we put that into our planning to fund those improvements over time. And so actually the metro districts look at that information and they're aware of it as our developers when they come into a specific site. And that's part of the math they put together, which is what improvements would the metro district or developer have to make versus what's part of that regional local system that is supported and paid for through the county. And so when developers come in, we talk about those things. We have clear regulations on who's responsible for what. And then most importantly, we require a traffic study. So we make sure they look at the specific traffic that's generated from the new development, but they also have to consider the traffic that's already around them. And the way they do that is they look at the zoning and they look at the most intense zoning in the area, and they do traffic projections based on that information. And then our engineers look at that information and decide what physical improvements need to take place, whether on that specific property with the metro district or in the surrounding area. And we make sure those are weighed and the appropriate entity is paying for those improvements. I'll say one last part to this. The traffic impact fee program that the county has helps support some of these things. So for example, when a new house is built or a new commercial building, they have to pay a fee to the county as part of their building permit process. And we use those funds to make regional improvements. So if it's not on the property for the developer, but let's say it's within a quarter mile of the site, we identify those needs and then we use those dollars to make those improvements to make sure that it's safe and that there's the appropriate level of service.
Thank you. We are definitely busy on special districts tonight. Mindy's asking, is Jeffco a member of DRCOG, and how will you be incorporating more mass transit throughout the county to enable development of higher density, affordable housing near transit?
Great question. Yes, we are part of DRCOG, and mass transit is a really important topic to help support affordable housing and not just higher density housing. But we all know RTD is having a hard time with their ridership and being able to expand their service lines. Even the light rail system is having some challenges as there's parts of the system that haven't even been built out yet. And so we know there's struggles. There's some efforts at the state level to come up with policy guidance, carrots and sticks to make sure local governments allow for more housing that might be affordable, but definitely dense in the appropriate places. And so we're working with those drafters and different entities like Colorado Counties Incorporated, which is a group of county commissioners that weigh implications of these types of policies across the state. And so we're making sure we keep tabs on that and that we're including appropriate measures in some of our comprehensive planning and some of our transportation elements and so forth. So that's a really complicated topic that is being discussed across all cities and counties in the state right now. So that's a very timely question.
Thank you. We have another question. How do you enforce your agreements with metro districts?
Great question. So we rarely have agreements with the metro district, but when we do, It's really with the developer and or sometimes the Metro District, which sometimes and most of the time they're the same folks. And so it's really trying to understand when we're approving the development and the service plan, who's doing what. And so we have to make sure that all of the costs are accounted for, that they've been checked twice, that we have different agreements in place to make sure those public improvements are done, and then who's responsible for maintaining those. And in some cases, in many cases, a lot of the roads or infrastructure that the Metro District pays for, actually the county does not maintain at all. So there's an actual benefit system-wide to other taxpayers where they don't have to spend tax resources to maintain something that was built by a developer through a Metro District. There's some counties like Larimer County, for example, they use Metro Districts more often than we do, and other types of improvement districts. And what that does is it ensures development pays for its own way, in that the end user who chooses to live there is ultimately paying for the service level that they receive, rather than somebody who might live 20 miles away in regard to their infrastructure.
Okay. Are there any other questions from our audience? Seeing none, I want to thank each of our speakers for coming tonight. Mary, Kevin, Carrie, thank you, even though you weren't on the agenda. We really appreciate your information. I also want to thank each of our audience members for being here tonight. It is my belief that each member of the audience has found something that they can convey back to other residents of Jefferson County so that we can make others more aware of the activities going on at the county level. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.